Well, hey there, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Speaking Of. Today we are speaking of policies, in particular, when policy documents contain the wrong content. Brought to you by one Louis Eisen. He's a good friend of the Holly Group family, a terrific guy, a very smart guy who has this annoying and greatly valued penchant for taking the things that I say and blowing holes in them.
I think you should tell people that this won't be boring, though. Like you told them about.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just so we don't lose them right at the beginning.
No, it won't be boring. Louis, thank you for coming. I could read your bio, but even if I did, I wouldn't do it justice because it's just so much. Why don't you tell the folks a little bit about, it's a game show. Enter and sign in, please.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I'm a policy writing educator is what I am. And having a legal background, I kind of apply legal writing, legislative principles to policy writing, because I remember for so many years watching people writing policies and arguing, you need to do this, you should do this, and back and forth. And it was all about, well, this is what I think is right. And this is what there was never any common framework, set of rules where we all could agree on what made it right. So I use the legislative model, and I try and teach people how to write policies that people actually want to follow, as opposed to being shoved down their throats.
Funny how much better that can work.
Amazing, yeah.
And I am Steve Weissman. I'm your host. I am the CEO of Holly Group, data and information governance consulting firm of some repute, hopefully not terribly ill. Really focusing on essentially how to use information as a way to mitigate risk and unlock opportunity. It cuts both ways, but only if the information you're basing stuff on is any good. So a big part of ensuring that it's good and properly cared for is the policy bit, which is why Louis is here, ladies and gentlemen. The instigator of this this conversation is a post, Louis, that you put on LinkedIn recently, where you talked about, as I mentioned at the outset, when policy documents contain the wrong content. And your setup image in it says that the most expensive room in the building is doing the wrong job, deliberating over the wording, say, of the employee handbook rather than the policies that inform it. So you had me at hello. Why don't you tell us sort of what that all means, where it came from, and what do we do about it?
Okay, well, can I start back a few years, maybe in the paper era? Because this is where people learn to do this stuff. And in the paper era, we took the same document and you gave it to an approval group and they put their sign on it. And then you gave that document to everybody to read. That's a paper model. In the electronic world, we can do things very differently. People can read all kinds of stuff that we can assemble. So one of the things that we want to assemble is a little bit of the piece of the policy. But everything that people read doesn't have to be approved by the people approving that policy. So that's the starting point. So the question is, what should those people be spending their time on when you're approving policy? And I have this very radical feeling, because I hear people often complaining, no one is reading the policies. And my response is, yeah, I don't think people should be reading policies. And that usually throws people. Have you heard me say that before?
Yeah, once or twice.
Yeah, so I don't think people should be reading policies. And I'll tell you why. Finance experts use finance policies in a way that's different from the rest of us. HR people use HR policies in different from the rest of us. If we're information management people, we use our policies different from the rest of everybody. And the reason is, when you're not an expert in that field, you do not trust your own interpretation of the policy. Let's take something like driving. There's a Highway Traffic Act that guides what you need to do. But if you get stuck and you need to know a rule, what's the likelihood that you're going to look up the Highway Traffic Act to get the answer? Pretty rare.
Well, then you get nicked for texting or reading while driving.
Fair enough. But even so, you would contact a specialist, an expert, to say, I'm having trouble understanding what's going on here. What's really important is that the experts in that field all agree on what that law means. And that's, I think, I'm sure you've encountered this the same way. In information management, our worst problem has been for in the policy that most of us do not interpret the policy the same way. We are so busy worried about everybody else understanding this policy. Oh my God, I can't use this word because there's a squirrel on the third floor that might not understand this word. So I have to dumb it down. That whole approach for me is wrong. I don't want the doctors dumbing down their safety policies for me. I don't want the airlines dumbing down their landing policies. I don't know why any professional should have to dumb down their policies for everybody else. The document that communicates those policies, the document where the policies are formed, are two separate documents. And I made the point in the article, it would be like when you have management team reviewing this policy that contains the examples and the explanations and the definitions and all this kind of stuff, it's kind of like if we had a car manufacturer produce the user handbook and then go back to the senior design engineers and say, you need to proofread this handbook and make sure we got it right. Waste of their time.
Well, that's like almost every user manual I ever read in my life. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I have certainly seen the same conditions, the same diseases in organizations. I love the notion of treating the two separately. It plays into the sensibility that I have with all of this stuff, from policies on sideways, it's not even up or down. Mm-hmm. How much of a role effectively marketing plays in it? We do spend an inordinate but necessary amount of time talking about culture change and all that. Mm-hmm. The policy piece of it is such an important piece that it is rather striking, and I think you articulate it really well, that it hasn't carried over into policies. So like, here's the important stuff. Now let's explain it in the context of the people who need to execute or abide by it. Right. That's the marketing piece.
That's right. Absolutely. And it's a different task. And the degree of granularity that those people need is not a good use of time for the people who should be at the 10,000 foot view. Right? People looking at the large pieces. Yeah. It's just...
I don't know if it's, yes, I do actually. I'll withdraw that particular sentiment. I was going to say, I don't know if it's a recent phenomenon or not. I don't think it is. I think I'm noticing it more. Mm-hmm. How much time people spend doing things to do their jobs that actually aren't really their jobs. Mm-hmm. And so I've come to talk about it lately in terms of, well, even broad information governance, right? So much of the foundational work is such a heavy lift before you can even make any really good decisions. That's not why a lot of the folks in those positions, that's not why they were hired. It's a necessary evil, but they were hired to make the decisions. Mm-hmm. So I think of it in terms of, how can we get you to do the job you're actually being paid to do?
So I would think, as a consultant, you must often come across organizations that have a problem separating oversight from operations. And with the oversight people are constantly reaching down into ops. Is that your experience?
Yes, although I think the issue is deeper than that, where in a lot of ways there's not enough oversight. And what I mean by that is, a lot of the initiatives that I somehow get involved with, maybe it's why, they tend to be more grassroots or side plays. In other words, it's not a diktat from the top. It does happen, and that certainly makes things a lot, I won't say easier, but a lot faster. well, we have to do this because the boss said so, let's make the best of it kind of thing. But a lot of times it's perhaps a department manager who knows that they have a problem and they're trying to solve it and they don't really know, or it's somebody who's dealing with the information more grassroots and they can't get traction. They're just going to do it themselves the best they can.
So, but that's the same problem, because it means the people who are supposed to be doing the oversight have left a blank.
They left a blank. So it's not too much oversight. It's not enough.
There's not enough. So instead of spending their time looking at really the large issues, and what I would call sort of first order decisions, the kind of decision you want to make once and not have to revisit it again, that's where your oversight people belong, right? And
Right.
too often, because when they're not involved in that, those first order decisions get pushed down to the operational level and they end up getting reviewed in the policies.
Yes.
When they should have been made way back here in the strategy.
Because documents or policies, like nature, abhors a vacuum.
Right.
There's a bumper sticker. So maybe I guess I have two thoughts. Maybe pick one, and we'll come back to the other one.
Okay.
Well, and maybe they relate. One was or is: do you have some examples that you can anonymize, because we obviously don't want to embarrass or get anyone in trouble, where this was particularly egregious? And then the second half is, what'd you do about it, or what did they do about it, or how did they grapple with that?
AI is particularly an area where I think we see it a lot, where the people at the top are panicking and they want answers in the details, when what we really should be doing is still getting oversight and principles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And you could pick almost any organization and say, look, have you put any thought into what the values are that are going to guide your implementation of AI? That's a first order, one time made decision, not something you want to make once we have the plan.
Right.
So,
right.
And I think a lot of organizations do that. So there are groups that at some point they say, okay, you know what, we keep stepping over the last thing we did because we're not getting ahead of this game. And how do we get out of it? And what you have to do is, first of all, it's a governance separation. It is how much confidence do you have in the experts you've hired, your specialists, to be able to implement the plans that you set? Because where they don't have that, they keep reaching down. But if you have that confidence, then let's stand at the top and you meet with the consultant and say, here's where we're going. Does this work out theoretically? Does it meet our principles? What's the broad strokes here? And then let the technical people take it away and resist the urge to.
Yeah. Well, I really love that. And it's not, in my experience, you don't hear a lot of that kind of essentially management philosophy, I guess is the word I'm looking for, penetrating as far down, if you will, as policy. I mean, what you're describing is how I always look at my role as a manager. The guiding principle for me has always been empowering the people to do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And my job is, if they've got a problem or an obstacle or they need a resource or just have, my job is to go get what they need so that they can take it and run with it. And you're describing very much that, if I've heard it correctly, which I think is just so powerful. And it comes back to really a fundamental issue with business governance of all kinds. Do you have the right people?
Yes.
Or are you the right person?
Right.
Which isn't something necessarily, I guess, a person would have the self-awareness to know, but their boss might.
Fair enough. So the other thing I should pull back is when we're talking high level stuff, I'm really talking high level stuff to the extent, for instance, when people ask me, well, should we have AI policies? And, I'm a believer in that everything that you would put into a policy in AI actually already has a home somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But if you really need a policy, okay, here's your sentence. We commit to the responsible and ethical use of AI. That's your policy. All right. And now you need to implement that. How do you implement responsible use? And then at that point, you need to be able to set it down. The people up top are supposed to produce the guardrails, the targets, the parameters, but the roadmap, that's the technical thing, right?
Yeah. It's one of the things I really admire and respect about you is your ability first to see, but then to articulate what really boils down to the strategic role that policies have in ensuring organizations work properly.
Yeah,
I think for many, a policy is, another necessary evil.
Yeah.
It's Big Brother telling us what to do, how to act, how to think, when
Yeah,
really to do it right, it's like, here's the touchstones. You figure out what the procedures need to be.
Yeah. So I turn policy completely on its head there, because a lot of people think policy is how we tell other people what they're supposed to do. No, that's not from my perspective. Policy is how we describe what we do and how we handle situations. And if I can give you a sort of very practical, it's
Please.
Not an information example, but a very practical example. Theaters, concerts, symphonies, they don't like it when people come in late. So they could put on the ticket, you better not be late. Don't be late, we're not letting you in. They could put all kinds of instructions on the ticket, but they don't. They have one policy statement on the ticket, and it says, we seat latecomers at the first opportunity. That's their policy. Yeah. It's how we handle situations we do not like. And when you do that, you are at least according adulthood to everybody else. So you're not taking the position that unless all these people here are controlled, they're liable to run amok and do all kinds of damage to our organization, which is the way I think a lot of people look at policies. No. Describe how you approach things, how you deal with things. That's what your policy is about. It explains the way you work.
Now, you've been doing this a long time, so the answer to this question is somewhat embedded in the question, which is, how difficult do you find it to be to get people to resonate to your approach to this?
That's a very good question. I actually find it easy to get people to realize, I don't think we're doing this right. What I do find difficult is people to then make the leap to say, maybe we should check with someone who knows how to do it. Because most of them will say, oh yeah, okay, we're doing it wrong, but I'm not paying for a consultant to come in. And I'm sure you come across that thing too, right? Yeah, because then the consultant, we have good people here. Why should I bring in someone from outside who's, that's, I think, the biggest obstacle. I was once hired by an organization to be a business improvement specialist and policy specialist in the information management area. And everybody was really excited about improving their processes as long as they didn't have to do anything different.
Yeah, right.
Right. Improvement is wonderful, but don't change what I'm doing.
That's right. It's fine here. It's the other guy.
Right. So I think those are the bigger blocks. If you've got an organization that has more of a continuous learning culture, a culture that says, no, you know what? We may be doing it good, but good isn't good enough. We want to do it better. That kind of culture is the one that you will reach for the next step. And,
yeah. And one thing folks should remember, though, many times you have consultants internally, but they happen to be employees. That there are people inside who actually could take a decent swipe at this apple, to butcher the metaphor, and do okay. So you're back in some ways, I guess, to trusting the people who are working there to know what they're doing and to have ideas that are worth listening to. There are occasions where I have served essentially as a consultant or an advisor to that person or a team of people like that, where it's more of a support role, a mentoring role almost, where I'm a touchstone. I'm on call for them, but they're doing the work, which is sometimes a very neat way to split the difference. We don't have budget for a full-blown consultant to come in and do soup to nuts, but we got people. Can you just sort of guide? Absolutely. The important thing is that it gets done and done properly. So, yeah, I mean, and I suspect, I know we share that same sensibility as consultants. We're here to help people do things and get the things done that need doing.
Yeah. So, but the advantage of the consultant is supposed to have that breadth of background, though. So I do understand if you've only worked at one organization for 30 years, you become a consultant, you're not really bringing anything new to the table. But if you were to go to the organization in the next suite, you might be incredible for them because you bring a whole new perspective that they didn't have. I still think where organizations fall short, and certainly on the policy area, and I suspect yours too, is the failure to define their success factors and key performance indicators way ahead of time.
Yep.
Right?
Or ever.
Or ever. But so that makes, certainly in the AI case, if you're implementing AI, well, that's part of your project. You have to figure out what the success indicators are. No, sorry, that's backwards. Okay. Yep. And we're putting in policies. How are we going to know if we've done it right? Is it just going to be someone says, yeah, I like this? Is that going to be the test? Are we going to have happy employees, which is important? But is that the only test? We're not going to have any trouble. Those types of things are the issues I think organizations need to look at first.
Yeah.
And also then to discuss, this applies in my area as much as yours, their tolerance for risk, and really put on the table do we have a tolerance for risk here? Are we prepared to empower people, give them guidelines, directions, let them run with it? Or if we look in our souls, are we just never going to give up the reins, right? We're going to want everything to be checked, double check before it goes through, because for whatever reason, this organization cannot afford to have a risk tolerance. Those are, I think, are the big questions ahead of time.
And they're big questions. Yeah, no doubt about it. It's always fascinating to me, whether it's this or the monthly roundtables that I'm so pleased to be a part of with Jesse Wilkins and Donda Young. Was that too subtle?
They're great.
It's amazing.
When I can, yeah.
Yeah, so. But it's amazing to me, as is happened here with you, how frequently it comes back to these fundamental bits of culture and the need to identify it, change it many times, that it really has nothing to do with technology. It doesn't even really have to do with the data itself. It's all the human conditions surrounding it.
Absolutely, 100%. And that, I mean, again, if we're looking at the order of operations here, I think strategy really has to come a lot earlier. Like, most people get upset if they don't have a policy in place. But wait a sec.
Yep.
Do you have a strategy? Your policy should support your strategy. You don't have a strategy. What are you writing?
And that explains why policies are so hard. I won't even say to enforce, although they can be, but just to follow. And how many times, the policy in this department is this, but if I were to behave, and this is a true story from an actual client, if I were in that department doing exactly the same thing, I'm out of compliance.
Right. So if you're going to ask me, how do we get people to buy into that stuff? Oh, I
Let
knew
me
you were
ask
gonna
you,
ask
how do
me
you get
that.
people to buy into this stuff?
Okay, for people to buy in, we need to go to the highest common denominator, which is mission, then values, and then strategy. Okay, so if you have a project and I'm not cooperating with your project, I probably haven't bought into this strategy around the project. That's what you need me to buy into. And if that strategy is built on the values of the organization, I'm going to make sure I'm buying into those values, right? And that's where, if you cannot draw a line between your strategy, plans, and the values in a way that resonates with people, they will all go their own way. And we're seeing that in spades today when governments and other organizations have ordered everybody back to work, right? I don't want you being away from the office. You need to be back 3 times a week. And why, they ask, there's no value that they throw short. There's no strategy. There's nothing to resonate. There's no plan. It's just, I'm telling you because I said so. That doesn't resonate with people.
Right. And the answers many times that you do get are thin. Oh, well, because it fosters team building and collaboration, cooperation. Most of the roles
they're thin. They
don't need scrutiny.
It. That's right. They sound hollow.
Or you do it the way we're doing this. I have worked so closely with so many people over the years, especially since the pandemic, but for years before, virtually.
Yeah.
And it does make it that much more special when we're in the same place at the same time. But I have found, and a lot of it is practice, I'll admit, because I'm very comfortable doing it. But you don't really have to be, and there are many job functions where it's irrelevant, like data entry, or key from image, or what's the difference where the screen is that you're sitting in front of.
Right.
And that only compounds the problem.
100%. So if you really wanted to bring people back, you need to come up with a strategy for why this is valuable, how it actually helps the organization. So maybe that strategy involves, well, you know what? Once a week, we're going to bring everybody back and we're going to use those days for very specific purposes to take advantage of the fact that we're all in the same room and to hold discussions that we can't seem to do online. As soon as you have a strategy that you can articulate that people will buy into, you are far more likely to get engagement than, that's the way their project is running. I agree with it. I don't agree with it. That's,
Yeah. Well, that seems like a good place to wrap. Thank you very much for spending the time with us.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I wish I had an applause track. Louis Eisen, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you watching, thank you for tuning in. Keep those cards and letters coming. I will put a link to Louis's article in the notes, your contact information as well. We do this for you. So if you've got questions, thoughts, if you have complaints, send them to Louis. Otherwise, let's hear from you.
Steve, you know I have a new book out.
Oh, plug away.
It just came out this week.
I did not know.
Called Why Are Your Rules Yelling at Me? And it's when rules treat adults like children.
Oh,
and it's
love it.
Just written for the average person. It's like a 2-hour read with lots of stuff, but just to sensitize people to, well, wait a sec, there's a dimension to this rule thing that is very human that we've overlooked.
I've got to pick that up. If and when there's a link, send it, and I'll put it in the notes as well, so people can find it.
Free even. It's free.
It's free even
until I get it on an Amazon Kindle version or EPUB. The PDF version is entirely free. So
give me the link. Then we shall all have it, and that's wonderful. Congratulations on that.
Okay.
I'll be sure to color in all the pictures as soon as I get it. Louis, thank you. Folks, for tuning in. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time. This has been Speaking Of with Steve Weissman, the InfoGov Guy, a Hollywood production.